Frederick Water is over 50 years old now. In 1968, the Board of Supervisors created what was called the Frederick County Sanitation Authority as an independent authority. And what that means is the elected officials for Frederick County created this organization, but their involvement is simply to appoint the 5 Board of Directors members. So we operate independently to Frederick County. We don't have taxpayer benefits. We simply, our customers pay the operations here. So we're over 50 years old, and for our 50th celebration in the year 2018, we rebranded ourselves as Frederick Water. We're still the same organization, but we believe the name Frederick Water is a better indication of what we do as a service. We provide water and wastewater services. We are not a sanitation authority, which a lot of people associate with solid waste in the landfill. We are a water provider and water treater. Hi, I'm Eric Lawrence. I'm the Executive Director of Frederick Water. As the Executive Director, I oversee the Frederick Water operations, all the divisions from customer service, finance, engineering, treatment, as well as the operations department, which maintains all of our infrastructure, water and sewer lines, and the liaison between the organization and the Board of Directors.
Yeah, my name is Michael Newland. I am the Chief Engineer at Frederick Water. The engineering department touches just about every facet of what we do here at Frederick Water. Obviously, we make drinking water, and we treat wastewater. We interact with the regulators. That's the Virginia Department of Health on the water side and the Department of Environmental Quality on the wastewater side. So there are regulations and requirements that we need to make sure that we comply with. And so that's a big part of what my department does. For all the new construction that goes on in our community and in our service area, those plans come to us ahead of time in the concept phase, and we review them so that the water and sewer infrastructure that gets installed as part of these projects, that it meets our standards and that it will serve our customers that are going to be in the area well. Then once projects go to construction, we have 3 full-time inspectors that drive around to the different project sites to make sure that the pipes and valves, fittings, that everything is getting installed according to the plans that we reviewed and approved. And there's also the misutility department, or a sub-department of our engineering department. When there's construction going on, they go out and identify the water and sewer lines that are buried underground before anyone digs. So I'm sure most of you have seen or heard advertisements for, call before you dig or something like that. So for water and sewer, my 2 employees are the ones that go out and put paint marks and flags in the ground so people know where not to dig. And that's also pretty important to keep the water flowing, and so that we don't have costly repairs that put people out of water for potentially hours at a time.
My name is Cheryl Whittle, and I'm the Director of Finance at Frederick Water. The best summary that I could come up with was that it is to record, to analyze, to project, and to report the performance of Frederick Water, which entails several things: supervising the daily accounting tasks such as purchasing, accounts payable, payroll, general billing, fixed assets, project tracking, those daily tasks that need to be done. But it also entails being able to look at our cash position, where we are at any point in time, to confirm that we can make our debt covenants and that we do have adequate cash on hand. And since we don't, then we have to go into the debt, applying for debt, grants, that type of work. as well as your annual budgets for both the capital and the operating, and then the projections out several years.
I'm Craig Grubb, and I am the IT director here at Frederick Water. It's really about finding solutions, technological solutions to problems that we face, and it's about maintaining the technology that we already have in place. It's the standard stuff that any office is going to have. We have virtual servers on the back end, and routers and switches and firewalls to connect everything together, and Windows PCs and 1 or 2 Macs out there. And we use a lot of mobile devices. We use a lot of iPads and iPhones out in the field. And specifically to a water utility, we also have SCADA and industrial controls to monitor and control the water and wastewater systems.
My name is Angela Mason, and I'm the Human Resources Manager. I'm the link between the management and the employees. My job duties consist of benefits, staffing and recruiting, policy management, employee relations. That's pretty much what it is in a nutshell.
My name is Carolyn Beatty, and I'm the Customer Service Manager for Frederick Water. That entails supervising a crew of 6 customer service representatives, helping the customers from anywhere from making payments to helps with discovering leaks, setting meters, accounts receivable, as well as customer service and collections.
My name is Howard Hart. I've been with the county for the best part of 26 years. I've been in this very position for 24 years, and we are just field service. That's what I do. Anything to do with the settings of water meters to samples, taking samples monthly, weekly, and just trying to instill in the customers out here that we're giving them all we can.
My name is Rocky Stump. I'm Superintendent of Operations here at Frederick Water. My job entails managing and overseeing the daily operations of the water and wastewater infrastructure. A little bit of that entails a long-term budget planning, managing my annual budget, hiring, training for staff. I do have. I've been here for probably going on 27 years with the maintenance department.
Mike Lindenberg with the maintenance department, and I'm assistant field manager. And I've been here, June will be 22 years. We make work orders and make sure I've got 14 employees that does different things. I have TV crew and valve turning and grease trap inspections. I have a guy goes out and does water leak, checks for water leaks. We just try to keep everything flowing.
Ralph Rinker. I've been with the company for 23 years. I'm also assistant field manager and schedule the work for the maintenance crews. We do all repairs on the water and sewer and keep the water and sewer flowing.
My name is Gregory Grimm. I'm the treatment superintendent for Frederick Water. I've got to go ahead and supervise all the people in my department. I've got 23 people right now to supervise. And I basically go ahead and report to the engineer director and all the treatment, or all the different managers in Frederick Water, and my chief operators. Try to go ahead and get input from them about what they're doing and so forth. And so it's pretty detailed. It's a lot more than I thought it was going to be when I first took it.
Sure.
I have been with Frederick Water for 31 years almost.
I'm Lee Edmonds. I'm the assistant chief here at the Deer Water Treatment Plant. Basically what we do here is take the water out of the quarry, filter it, and make it drinkable for Frederick County. We are at our intake system here at the Deer Water plant. Those 3 buildings have the pumps in them that pump the water up to our plant. The water gets pumped there, it goes through these lines right here and goes up into the plant. As you can see, this is where we get our water out of the quarry. The water is nice and clean. We don't have to worry about mud from rain and things like that because it's all pretty much held in a rock. So yeah. Underneath here is the deepest part, and the last I heard it was somewhere around between 50 and 60 feet. Actually, the best way to describe it is this is a window into the water table. It's the rock is porous, so the water can come and go. The water kind of pools up here. We have a couple of places we pump water into this, but it is influenced by the surface because you can see it, but it is basically just the water table of the area around here with everything cut off, and you can see what's in it. We have multiple quarries. We have 3 quarries on this side of the county. We only draw water out of this one, and we pump water out of what we call the south quarry into this one. We do that because we've got our pumps here. We can pump the other quarry down a lot more and pump it over here. That way we can keep the optimal amount of water in this quarry. Whereas the other one, it is actually, the well goes into a shaft at the bottom of the quarry. So if we pump that quarry completely dry, we can still get water out of it, whereas this one we can't. Yes, this is the raw water. And this is all basically quarry water comes up this big pipe. And this is where all of our chemicals feed. This one is the fluoride line. It's also making that squeak sound because it's a pump. And these are our 2 alum lines. Our chlorine actually comes in before this, our pre-chlorine, but it comes in underground, so you can't really see it. But the interesting thing about this water is once it comes in, all the water gets all the chemicals get mixed into it. In that pipe right there that goes across, inside of it, there's a baffle system. Okay. And the water goes up through and turns into a cyclone and mixes all the chemicals together. And once that happens, that's considered treated water. And it comes down, goes through a pipe underground, and then goes into our filter. These are the filters. You can go up there and take a look. Okay, this is our filter that we have. We are not considered a conventional plant because we don't have a sedimentation basin, so we are a direct filtration plant. This section of the filter is called the clarifier, and basically underneath of this there's basically a dump truck load of plastic beads that float. The water comes up, and all of the dirt you can see in the water, basically the bigger stuff, gets caught in between those beads and doesn't make it up through. So it's kind of like a strain, and it strains out the bigger stuff. And once that takes place, it comes out, goes into our filter. Now this water looks clean. This water is nowhere near safe to drink. Now the water comes through, and then it goes down through by gravity through this filter. And this is a multimedia filter. What you're seeing, the black, is really tiny coal. And there's roughly 2 feet of coal on top of, I think it's around 3 feet of sand. And then there's some rocks and that kind of thing. But all it does is, when the water goes down through it, we've added chemicals to make the dirt stick together. And it just goes through, and the coal and the sand just catch everything that comes down through, and clean water comes out the bottom. Our filter rate is 1,400 gallons a minute per each filter. Always run at least 2, and we normally run 3, especially in the summertime, or to catch up on water, high peak demand times, we'll run 3. Once it goes out the bottom, it runs down the tank, and I don't know if you can see it out the window, but it goes into that giant tank out there. And then here is our chlorine feeding system. These are 2,000-pound containers of liquid chlorine. Even with all of our filtering that we do, if we didn't put chlorine in the water wouldn't be drinkable. It would not be safe for human consumption. Because even when the water goes in clean, there's a lot of other things that can go on. We disinfect the water, we don't sterilize it. We can't kill absolutely everything in the water. So we can't filter everything out of the water, where we can get, I think it's 99.9999%. So that's what the chlorine is to do, is to get that other 0.0001% and to make sure that if there is something in the pipes, that there are things called iron bacteria, and it creates slime mold in the pipe. The chlorine will kill that. There's a lot of things that go on in the distribution system that chlorine actually keeps the bad things from happening. It's required that no matter where you go in the system, the farthest dead end has to have a chlorine residual. The minimum chlorine residual is 0.02. The reason that is because if you have a free chlorine residual anywhere in your line, that says that the chlorine has eaten up everything that could be hazardous in there, any pathogens, and still has some left over. So you know everything's gone. If you had a 0, you couldn't be sure if there was some that made it through. As you can see, there's our tank. That's our finished water tank. It holds 2 million gallons of water. And there's a pump house, which we're going to go drive down and look all around. Down here is our pump station, and what this does is there's 5 sets of pumps in here. 3 of them are what we call finished water pumps, and they pump the clean water that we filtered out of that tank out into the distribution system. And there's 3 of them. We normally only run 2, and we have a 3rd one as a backup. Sometimes, like now, we can run 3, and we're running 3 right now. And the other pumps in here are backwash pumps, and what those do is they actually pump water backwards up the hill, and that's how we clean out the filters, is we pump water back up through to get the dirt out, and then it goes down into these waste ponds. And in this pond, these ponds here, the water flows down, goes in one pond, there's a thing underneath that goes to the other, and then they go back, the water goes back into the quarry. And all of the dirt that we filter comes down and settles in these ponds. So the water that we do pump out that's clean to clean our filters will end up running back down into the quarry, so we don't waste any of the water. And then every 3 months we drain these ponds out, suck up all the sludge and mud, and ship it off to be dried and sent to the landfill. Every day, pretty much twice a day, we check the alkalinity and hardness. And we want to make sure that it has some hardness in it, because hardness is a kind of a telltale sign that your water isn't acidic. And the alkalinity, that has a lot to do with how our chemicals work. There's a lot of chemistry involved in the alkalinity and the alum and the polymer, but to simplify it all down, our chemicals work best with alkalinity over 200, and ours is constantly between 220 and 250. So our chemicals are working pretty much at the optimal rate. This is where we check our pH. This is one of the more important tests we do. Along with the alkalinity, this tells us that our water is not acidic and that our chemicals are working correctly. And if there's a change in pH, we can adjust chemicals if need be. And it lets us know that if there's something wrong, this is one of our first indicators. And it's federally mandated that you got to do it every 2 hours that the plant is in operation. We try to keep it above 7 because we don't want it to get acidic. We don't have much control over that,
but since we're coming from a limestone quarry, the lowest I've ever seen RPH was about 7.4. One of the main reasons we're worried about this is we want our water to be basic, and we want our water to form a scale, because if you have a scale on the pipes, that actually protects the inside of the pipes. And back when they had the Flint, Michigan issues, they went from a neutral-based water to an acidic-based. And what happened was, there isn't much lead in drinking water, but if you have acidic water, it corrodes the pipes and the soldering and the fixtures, and it draws lead out of the water in that corrosion. If you have basic water instead of acidic water, you get a coating of calcium on it. So you may have clogged fixtures, but you don't have to worry about getting lead in the water nearly as much. This next little machine here is actually more important than all the rest of them. This is what we check our chlorine residual with. We check it every 2 hours when the plant's running. And we check what we call the applied. We check it on the top of the filters, and we check it once it goes out into the tank. And this little machine does all that. Now if you look at here, this is how we actually test it in all the locations. These sample taps come from different places all over. This one is the finished water tap. This is just like the same tap that we wash our hands with. Same water that goes out. These taps are what we call the applied taps, and they come from the front of the filters. These come from the underneath side of the filters. This lets us know what our product is after it's been filtered. This is the most important one that the state wants. They want it under 0.1 NTU, and NTU stands for nephelometric turbidity unit. It means there's not a lot of dirt in it. And we test over here, we actually, is our turbidimeter, and we check all of these taps for the turbidity. And this is a raw line. We check it for turbidity too and pH. We check it when it comes in to see how much dirt's in the water. We check it once it goes through the clarifier to see how much we've taken out. And then we check it at the end to see how clean we've got the finished product. And then we go another step further, and we check the water that's in the tank to make sure there hasn't been anything happen inside of our tank, the water chemistry, and that it's a final check that says that the water going out of here is still clean. So we check, and then we check some more.
One of the biggest things we like to do is preventive maintenance. You got to do preventive maintenance to keep problems from happening. So that's why, like Mike was saying, that they go out and operate the valves. So that way, when there is a water main break, we know where the valves are. We know it can be operated. It's not broken. Yeah. So the preventive maintenance is a big thing on our side. That's just like the pump stations. You go out and do the preventive maintenance on your pumps. You don't have the sewer overflows. You don't have the breakdowns that you normally would have if you do no preventive maintenance. So that's the big thing with us in the maintenance department, is doing the preventive maintenance side of it.
I'm Dana Brode. I work for Frederick Water at the Parkins Mill Wastewater Treatment Plant. I'm the chief operator. We are currently in our influent building. This is where the water comes in. It is untreated at this point and not pleasant to work with. Luckily, we don't have to spend a lot of time in this building, so that's always a plus for this job. The water comes in the bottom and goes through this bar screen beside of it. As you can see, it takes out the biggest pieces, and then these pieces fall into a press. The press presses out the water, deposits everything else into a dumpster. That dumpster is then dumped into a dump truck and hauled to the landfill to enter into the streams. There's another machine downstairs that slows the water flow down. So if there's any sand, gravel, anything like that, it gets taken out of the water and deposited in here. Usually you see something that we just dumped it, so there's nothing in it. Just looks like grit. They call it a grit machine. That's basically this building. So after the water runs through that building, it either runs into the wet well underneath of those stainless steel doors, or it runs into the old wet well over there. There's two different pump stations, one attached to each wet well. It requires good water to keep everything working because water is a limited source. Between us and the water plant, my job is to make sure that that water is healthy. When it goes into the creek at the bottom at the end of the tour, it's actually cleaner going in the creek than what's already there. So after we send it from down there at the pump station, it comes to the splitter box, splits the flow between the upper and the lower sites of the plant. We actually have two sections of our plant and I can run them independently. We're going to look at the upper site because everything's all put together and easier to follow. So it's a little harder to see from down here, but our water comes in at that end and flows all the way through. Goes around what we call the horseshoe because of its obvious shape. It goes back out the other end. In that process, we're removing phosphorus, nitrogen, and ammonia. For those of you who like chemistry, you'll like this breakdown. Ammonia starts out as NH3. When it's introduced to the bacteria that's in the water, they pull the hydrogen molecules off of it, attach two molecules of oxygen to make it nitrite, which is an unstable formula, and immediately pulls another oxygen to itself to make nitrate. After it does that in this heavily oxygenated section, we go to the mixing section down here, and it's foamy because it's still cold yet. Once the cold dissipates, there's a bacteria called nocardia that likes cold weather and creates foam. So once the cold weather kind of goes, then the other bacteria will take better charge and all the foam will disappear. So once we go through that oxygenated process, we get that ammonia to change over to NO3, and we add, as you can see, the dribble of water coming out of that pipe. That's a carbon source, so we're adding food back to the water. Is to remove the ammonia and turn it into nitrate. It takes a lot of food. So to remove the nitrate now, I need to add food so that they'll have something to eat while they're trying to destroy the oxygen on the nitrate. And what they do is those bacteria that I'm cultivating in that section take the NO3 molecule, rip off the oxygen. They do it in two parts. First, they turn it into nitrite again, and then they rip the rest of the oxygen off and release the nitrogen gas into the air. So at that point, nitrogen gas is released and we don't have to deal with it in the plant anymore. Phosphorus, on the other hand, is a solid. It cannot be removed in gaseous form, so it has to be wasted out. We do that two ways. One way is biologically, one way is chemically. The biological end of it we do within this process. We essentially starve it for oxygen. That causes the phosphorus absorbing molecules, or organisms, PAOs. They're a special breed of bug. They're very hard to cultivate. They're very hard to keep alive. They don't reproduce very quickly. Those bacteria take in phosphorus, remove the oxygen off the PO4 molecule, release phosphorus back into the water when they have no air source so they can eat up food. And when they get in this heavily oxygenated area, they take that same phosphorus, reattach oxygen to it, and pull it back in their cell in case they ever need it again. Not only that, but they pull in more phosphorus than they started with. And they call that a luxury uptake. So that's one way that we remove phosphorus. Another way is we add liquid alum to our secondary process, which we're going to in a second. And that causes the phosphorus to settle, and then we can take it out because it metallically binds it, makes it heavy enough we can remove it. Those are the only two ways at the moment that we can remove phosphorus. One of the questions I always ask is, why is it that color? Well, the most common response I get is poop. The answer to that is no. when bacteria is being healthily fed and it gets enough oxygen, it's not overpopulated, and it has enough food, it turns brown. If you stand up on top of the reactor and you take a big whiff, you usually get a nice deep earthy smell. That means the process is working correctly and everything is in harmony. So from here we'll go to the secondary clarifier, where this goes out. It clarifies and allows the clear water to come off the top. The settled water goes back to the head of the plant to go back into this from the reactor. It goes to that tank right over there, which splits it between the two clarifiers up on top, bringing the water here. If you look, you can see the solids coming in the middle. Looks exactly like what we had in our reactor. By the time it gets from the middle to the outer ring, it's already settled down quite a bit. And the solids are on the very bottom, which we check the depth of to see how much we have. This tank is about 750,000 gallons. So we slow the water down and we put these baffle walls in place. That's what they call the walls. And they keep the solids that are settling to the bottom from just sliding straight through instead of settling out. So it slows the process down and we end up with clear water coming in. And then after that happens, it goes down through our filters, which is where we'll go next. These are the filters. There's not really much to see. Everything is down inside. Each one of these small grates we're going to look at are covering a 16-foot pole. We have one of the poles out so you guys can see it. This is what is down inside, doing all the work for the filter. There's the top of that filter. And the sand is splashing up, and that little bit of smoky stuff you see coming off of it is actually biological. And all this does is, if anything makes it through our clarifiers and gets down here, this gives that somewhere to get picked up, and it goes back through a washer, and it knocks all the biological material off, which goes back to the head of the plant to be retreated. So we're not putting anything into the creek, we're keeping it all here. Currently we're running the levels in series, so it goes through the top level up there, then it comes down here and gets polished on the bottom level before we allow it to go over to our UVs, and the UVs are what we use for disinfection, which is where we're headed next. So the water from our filters comes in down here, runs through these, through our UV system. They stand vertically. There's 50 bulbs per bank. I've got 10 banks, so that's 500 bulbs. Luckily we don't have to run all of them. We can run 2 per side and be able to do everything we need. One piece of information that's good to know, UV disinfection does not kill bacteria. It sterilizes it. Any bacteria that does make it down here, instead of completely killing it, we sterilize it so it can't reproduce. So even if it goes in the creek, you're only going to end up with whatever it was that got sterilized, never anything more. And we are checked on that every day. We use an E. coli test. So, and it's a 24-hour test. But the operators are also required to check and make sure these are running twice a day. This is a very important piece of the machine of the wastewater plant. In order to keep the fish happy in the stream, we have to maintain at least a 7.1 DO going out. Our plant maintains somewhere around a 10 to a 12 DO going in. So we have plenty of air going into the system before it gets to the creek, which means the wildlife at the end of the process is very happy with our water. Matter of fact, we have a blue heron that loves to frequent our outfall because of the heat that's put out by the water. Even midwinter, 20 degrees Celsius is what our water usually runs, which is pretty close to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You could sit in the aeration steps, which are right here, and are the last piece of aeration for the plant. You can actually sit in there and enjoy it kind of like a sauna. Though I'm not going to be the first one to do it. It is clean, that's what I'll say. It's still technically non-potable water because it has not went through a water plant. After the water runs down our effluent steps, this is where it comes out and hits the stream.
To where you are now.
Yeah, my background is interesting because it has nothing to do with water and sewer, but it has to do with community development. Prior to joining Frederick Water, I was actually with Frederick County in their Department of Planning and Development, and I was the county's planning development director for 13 years prior to joining Frederick Water. So my experience for over 25 years now has been community development around Frederick County. So water and sewer ties right into the big picture. Community development's planning for the future of the community, identifying where industrial, commercial, residential uses go, making sure the roads are in place, and making sure the water and sewer, not only the lines are in place, but the capacities are there to accommodate future growth. Make sure the water plants are operating and have water, make sure the wastewater plants are operating and can treat that wastewater.
I think as the chief engineer, obviously a degree in civil or environmental engineering, that would be a typical thing. As an engineer, different than most, I actually went and got my engineering degree in Germany. So when I moved back to the U.S., I actually would be equivalent to a master's degree in structural engineering, but when I moved back to Frederick County, which is where I'm originally from, there weren't many jobs in the structural engineering field, at least not doing something that I would have envisioned like bridges or skyscrapers. So I took a job doing civil engineering and gained a lot of work experience doing that, and then I always was interested in water projects in particular, and then an opportunity came up to work under probably the most, I guess, well-known and established engineer for water and wastewater projects in our area. So I did that for 6 years or so, and then that gentleman was close to retirement age, and the opportunity here at Frederick Water came up, and I kind of like the idea of kind of having one organization and one sort of group of customers to focus on, instead of a project here for, I did a wastewater plant for the Naval Academy in Annapolis, and that was a lot of fun, but then the project's done and then you move on. That might be appealing to some people, but sort of the sense of ownership in what I do and the continuity of, we have about 45,000 customers that depend on us for water and sewer services, and so I take a great deal of pride in knowing that what I do here is very important to a lot of people in our community, in this community that I was born here and grew up here, and really like being here.
I have been with Frederick Water for 31 years almost. I think the end of this month is when it's going to turn over to 31. It's kind of funny because my dad took me up to a water plant when I was a kid, and I never dreamed that that'd be something that I would do. But I had a job in a factory in Warren County, and I worked there for like 18 years, and they shut the plant down, and the next thing you know, I was out of a job for like 6 months, and I was getting kind of desperate because my money was running out, and my unemployment benefits were running out, and so anyway, I ended up finding the paper. There was an ad in the paper for a wastewater plant operator trainee with the Sanitation Authority, and next thing you know, I'm interviewing with my old boss, Hank Slowinski, and he's hiring me, and I guess the rest is history.
I was actually working in Loudoun County at Inova Health, and I saw the job here at Frederick Water advertised, and it was much closer home, and it was in the HR field. So I applied for the position, interviewed, and 14 years later, here I am.
I worked at the county, and our executive director was the planning director. After he came over, he didn't have an IT department really at the time. So it was Eric who wanted to create an IT department, and he reached out to me and asked me to apply for the position, and that's how it all went down.
Sure. I don't know how or why, but I knew when I got out of high school and went into college that I was going to be an accountant. So I went to Mary Washington College, got my degree in economics and accounting, and then I pursued my CPA and was working at a public accounting firm in Winchester when I got my CPA. And I did that for a few years, and then I went into industry for 15 years. And then I moved to California. And so after being in California for 3 years, when I relocated to Virginia, there was an ad in the Northern Virginia Daily for a director of finance for Frederick Water. And so I responded to that and interviewed and got that job. So I've been here since March of 2013. And I love it. So.
Well, I answered an ad in the paper 15 years ago this year for a customer service representative. And at that point in time, they only had 2 customer service representatives there. And my position was a new position for a 3rd. Like I said, now we have 6, so we've grown quite a bit. But I came with a lot of customer service experience. That's pretty much what I've done through most of my career. And I've been manager in other places.
We offer a competitive benefits. Salaries are pretty up there, and also stability. Everybody's going to need water and sewer, so we definitely offer a stable work environment.
I know it doesn't sound very exciting sometimes, but if you look at it, it's very important work. I mean, I know a lot of younger people now are into the environment, they're environmentalists, and this is the atypical way to go ahead and help your environment, because you're cleaning up water that people are consuming, and you're cleaning up water before we discharge it back into the receiving streams.
Well, I have been with Frederick Water now for 5.5 years, and there are a lot of people here that have been with Frederick Water for a very long time. I think most of the people that are here, they really enjoy what they do. They, I think like me, they see the value in what they contribute to the organization, because that matters to a lot of people. Yeah, I really value all of the other team leaders, so that the other department heads, because everybody brings something very unique to the table, their areas of expertise that are different from mine quite a bit, and so it's sort of only as a team do we kind of complete ourselves as an organization.
We've got a great group here. One of the amazing things is we have about 75 employees now, and a lot of our staff have been here for many years. People have joined us later in their careers and stayed with us, or they were actually joined us straight out of high school and have stayed with us their whole career. It's a great place to work, and I think the fact that people stay here as long as they do is an indication that it's a great place to work. And we pride ourselves on that. We try to make sure everyone enjoys what they're doing. We're providing a necessary service to the community, but we're having fun while we're doing it. Frederick Water has an important role in Frederick County's growth. Just as anything occurs, any new development shows up, we need to make sure we're available to meet those services. As this community has grown, more and more homes are being built on public water and sewer as opposed to drain fields and well and septic. Therefore, we have an increasing growth burden placed on us. On the water supply front, we have had an aggressive program for the past 5 years of securing our water sources. We have acquired quarries, outright own the quarries. We have lease agreements on other quarries. We have wells, and we're building a new water treatment plant right now to make sure that we have the adequate water supply and treatment available for our future customers. The new water treatment plant is an exciting adventure, essentially, that we've undertaken. We started planning for it well over 5 years ago, acquiring properties, acquiring the necessary permits from the state, and we broke ground on it just a few weeks ago, and a year from now, so April of 2022, the new water plant will be in operation.
Well, we need to have at least a high school graduate, and most of the times we get that. I can't remember whether we've hired anyone who hasn't had it. The field is getting more technical as time goes by, and they're kind of wanting more people that have at least a couple of years of college. And if you've got a couple of years of college, it helps you to go ahead and get through the process of licensing. Well, I'm really looking for someone who's willing to learn and is able to learn. That seems to be about the most important quality, because there is a lot to learn. You know, it's just like life. You've got so many things that you've got to try to go ahead and learn. And if you're able to and you're willing, you know, I think that you can go ahead and succeed in what we're doing here.
The most important thing for us is that they have analytical abilities, they take initiative, and they work well together, that type of thing.
Look for someone who's a people person that can not only help the customer but can talk with them and make them feel good to come here to Frederick Water.
If I were looking to hire someone for the engineering department, I would first start by trying to get a sense for what the person is like, their personality, their character, and know that they'd be a good fit with our department and our organization more broadly. That's just really important. With just about any job, you can get your on-the-job training, and you always have that regardless of how good your schooling and other previous experience is, that you're going to learn something new, and it will take some time to get good at what I would ask a new employee to do. So aside from character, I think a willingness to learn and take on new tasks, you know, to not just say, nah, I don't think I can do that, or I don't want to do that, but rather, sure, you know, I don't know how to do that yet, but I will certainly learn. That's something that's important.
Frederick Water is a unique entity. We have opportunities for all skill levels. If you're just getting out of high school, we have labor opportunities that you could migrate into and start at as entry level and then work your way up through the organization. If you have desires to go into engineering, finance, we have opportunities for you when you get out of college. We have 2 engineers on staff that are professional engineers. That's a college degree, so we encourage that. So any aspect of life, any personalities, we try to accommodate you. To be successful at Frederick Water, you have to be willing to take on tasks. You've got to be an outgoing individual. You've got to get along with everybody. We've got a very wide spectrum of people working here, from the operations crew, the treatment plant, the engineers, customer service. So they all have diverse backgrounds and interests. So you've got to be able to get along with everybody, and that creates a very positive environment, because if you get along with the people you're working with, it makes you excited to come to work. It makes you excited to help everybody else and to jump in when necessary. And that's what this organization's about. We have to provide water and wastewater services to over 17,000 customers, which is a population greater than 50,000 people. And we get there by everyone contributing.
Well, I would encourage you to check out our website. There are some learning things on there, maybe for kids younger than you, but still, if you had younger brothers and sisters, that would be good. It's never too early to learn about conservation, water conservation. It's still very important for us to save water, and there are some things on our website that will help.
Try to identify what you like. Doesn't even necessarily have to be what you're good at least not right yet. Try out a lot of things, ask a lot of questions, and you know, I'm sure right now the thought of another 4 or potentially more years of additional schooling doesn't sound too great, but yeah, it's a great opportunity to learn a lot, and for certain career paths there's really not much of an alternative to that. But yeah, have a goal is certainly probably the biggest thing. I think maybe taking a year off to figure out what you want to do is certainly undervalued in our society. Not sure why, but choosing a major that you wind up sticking with will be in the end a lot cheaper and certainly faster than starting something and changing your mind multiple times, which I think statistics would say that happens quite a bit. So that's the sort of guidance I'm giving my children.
If I had to summarize one thing that I've learned over my career, which I won't say how long it is that if you have someone that has the fit for your department, they can learn anything else. But no matter how much experience somebody has, if they don't fit, it won't work.
One thing I'll say is I was a bit of a mathematician in school. I would have never guessed that this job would be something that would fit that. There's a lot of math in water and wastewater both. I wish I'd have known, because I'd have got into it a lot earlier. The job is a good job to have, in my opinion. If you want to come in and you want to apply yourself, you can do a lot of good for the environment and learn a lot in the process.
Well, I think this is wonderful that we're able to do this and to go ahead and reach out to local kids in the area. There's nothing more than I would rather do is to go ahead and keep kids in the area. But as far as a message to them, I like for them to go ahead and consider water and wastewater as a viable opportunity for career in this area, or any area actually. I know that a lot of kids are going to go ahead and probably go to college. Some of them are going to go ahead and get enlist in the service, but the rest of them are probably going to be looking for a job or a career opportunity. I've heard a lot of people say that after they've gotten out of college, they have trouble finding a job opportunity. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's one in water and wastewater. So if you're interested, I sure would like to have the opportunity to try to talk you into it. And if you're interested, let me know.
We certainly miss the opportunity to see the high school students face to face in the spring, like we have for many years now. But we wish all of you the best in your careers, and if we can help guide you, if we can help answer your questions, if we can help give you something else to think about for your future, certainly reach out, learn from us, and then take what you want. And if you feel there's more and you have follow-up questions, reach back to us. I think one of the disadvantages we have with the COVID environment is we don't get to see the students on a weekly basis. And I think that makes it more of a challenge. So hopefully you can learn stuff through the videos that we're providing and other county agencies are providing, and definitely reach out to departments that you have questions with. We're doing this because we want you to learn about our operations, but we also want to help you make decisions as you prepare for your future. And good luck to you all.
Hi, my name is Jamie Miller, and I am the administrative assistant for Frederick Water. There are so many different opportunities here within Frederick Water, and I would have never thought to even consider a position here because when I was in high school, I'm actually a graduate of Sherando High School in Frederick County. It didn't occur to me that I might want to, treat water or wastewater. So looking for a position here is not something that I necessarily would have thought about or considered. But what I have found is that this is a very welcoming organization. From someone who has been in your position in the past, what I want to encourage you is to take the time to look at opportunities, even if it doesn't seem like it's a good fit for you initially. There's a lot more to living and working in this community than I had necessarily thought when I was in high school and considering my next steps. There is a position here for every type of intelligence, every type of skill set, whether it's more academic or more hands-on. There's a lot of great opportunity that allows you to do good and have real impact on your immediate surroundings, on your friends and family, for your local environment. And if you are interested in learning more about anything that you have seen today, our entire staff is very passionate about helping this community, helping the next generation find how they can fit into that. So please give me a call, send me an email if you would like to speak more in depth with anyone that you've seen on this video today. I'm happy to put you in touch. Everyone has mentioned that they would love to take questions and discuss further. So if there's anything we can do to help you as you explore your career options and learn more about how we interact in the community and how you may be a part of that, we'd love to talk to you. Thanks so much.